Hello, my friend. In this video, I want to go over some of the new Spotify features that have come out for listeners and discuss how that can impact us artists releasing music on Spotify. So I know there's already been a couple videos out there about the new features for artists that Spotify's put out. I'll put some links into the description below of some videos that have covered it really well. There's a great one by Andrew Southworth, as well as one from Giovanni from Noislash. They go over some of the new features that are going to be available for artists and give some really good takes on how they might be useful and how they might impact how we're releasing music on Spotify. So definitely check those out. Before diving into 3 of the newer features for listeners, which are the updated home feeds, the Smart Shuffle feature, and the AI DJ, I do want to quickly give my thoughts on some of the updates that are coming for artists. Mainly the things that I'm excited about are discovery mode and the kind of ad platform that they're building out with Marquee, and I believe it's called Showcase. And why I think this is awesome is because this could hopefully allow artists to move away from playlisting and even Facebook ads, because those things, they can work quite well, but they do cost a decent amount of time and a decent amount of money. So I think the more that we can move away from having to spend money on these things, I think they'll still be important, particularly Facebook ads, if you want to start getting into lead generation and building your fan base so that you could actually sell to them and speak to them directly. I think that's really important. But in terms of running ads to grow on Spotify, I think it'd be nice if we could start moving away from that and simply do something like making sure that you have music in discovery mode and you're releasing music consistently so that you're maximizing release radar, you're maximizing discovery mode, and then that way it's not costing you as much, and the release strategy is even more focusing on a music first release strategy instead of some technical music marketing kind of setup. But those are at least my thoughts on where I'd like things to move personally. So with that said, let's talk about these new features for listeners and how they might impact us as artists. So first off is the updated home feed and the music feed and all that. So essentially what this is a redesign of the home screens on Spotify. And really the kind of takeaway that I'm seeing is that Spotify is continuing to push away from music and is trying to really get into non-music content. So there's a lot of like full screen videos that are going to be showing up a lot more. And again, a bigger push into podcasts. I ultimately think this is kind of a negative thing. I'd love to be wrong here, but the way that I see it is Spotify is really focusing on things that they don't have to pay out for. So by not having music as one of the main things on the platform, they don't have to pay out royalties. If they focus on podcasts and video clips and that kind of stuff, they don't need to pay out for that. So I think that's kind of why they might be doing that. I hope to be wrong there. In addition to that, any kind of big refresh like this, if the users, the actual Spotify users, don't like it, then again, this can be a bad thing, because then this could push people away from Spotify, which could hurt us as artists, because obviously there's a lot of great things and bad things about Spotify, but ultimately I think it is quite good for getting your music discovered, and I think that's really important to me and a lot of people that really like making music for the sake of it getting heard, as opposed to just making money off of it. So I think that's important. And so if they keep doing this and people are like, hey, I don't use Spotify for podcasts, I don't use Spotify for videos, can you stop shoving this down my face? They might start moving away from Spotify, and that could kind of hurt us, I think, as artists, because Spotify does have a really good recommendation engine and all those kind of algorithmic playlists. That's something that's really lacking in a lot of other streaming platforms and services out there, so it would suck to kind of lose that. So those really are my thoughts on that feed. And I want to move into some things that I'm a little bit more excited about on the listener side of things. And the next thing is the Smart Shuffle. And essentially what this is they've said it's a kind of update or a natural evolution of something that they've called Enhance. And Enhance in the past would essentially be, if you created a playlist, it would give you recommendations on how to fill out that playlist naturally using like AI and the recommendation engine and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I think this is another positive change, because essentially what this is just another way that your music can get recommended to listeners. When they turn on Smart Shuffle, it's going to look at their listening behavior and look at what they've been liking and not liking, and looking at what similar users have been listening to. And so if your music is fitting the bill on any of that stuff, it's doing well, it's getting good engagement from your listeners, it's getting a high save rate, high listen rate, all that kind of stuff that really helps with, Release Radar and Discover Weekly radio and all those algorithmic playlists. All those things will also help you get more exposure on something like Smart Shuffle. So I think this is awesome, because essentially it's just another kind of algorithmic recommendation that can help get your music heard a bit more. So I'm definitely a big fan of that. Obviously, it depends on if listeners actually start using it and and engage with that feature. But ultimately, I think that could be a good thing for us artists on Spotify. And before moving on, I just got another thought, so I wanted to get it out real quick. But this also does remind me a little bit of, so you know that there's algorithmic playlists and editorial playlists. They've also been talking about something called algatorial playlists, which essentially are a little bit like this smart shuffle feature. So I think this is quite similar. So it's where it's almost like a personalized playlist, and it'll shuffle depending on each listener as they listen to the playlist. So I think this is an extension of that. And again, this can be a very good thing because it ultimately comes down to your music, and the better your music is, the more engaging your music is, the more that people seem to like it, the more that you'll have opportunities with this feature. And that really ties us into the last feature that we're going to be talking about, which is that AI DJ kind of feature that they've been putting out. And essentially what to me this seems like is, again, it's just another extension of like an algorithmic playlist, an algorithmic recommendation. The only difference is it has a cool kind of name. So it's like, oh, a DJ is making me a playlist kind of thing, which is interesting. And they're using an AI voice to speak over some of the tracks, which is kind of cool too. And ultimately, I think this is a good thing for artists, again, because this is just, again, another way that your music can get recommended. So similar to Smart Shuffle, similar to algorithmic playlists and all that kind of stuff, the more engaging your music is, the more chances you have of appearing in a fan's AI DJ sort of playlist that gets created. And again, that's more opportunities for your music to get out there and get discovered. And I think ultimately that's a good thing. So I'm happy to be seeing stuff like this show up a little bit more, just way more opportunities for Spotify to get accurate data on each listener so that they can give the best recommendations possible. And that's where our music can come in and be recommended, which is ideal and is one of the best things about being an artist on Spotify, is that recommendation engine, in my opinion, at least. So that's a breakdown of the 3 listener features that I'm most excited about and how it can impact us as artists. I think ultimately it doesn't really change too much about how we should go about things. Keep putting out music on Spotify, keep trying to get it to get engaged with and listened to at high rates. This will help pick things up in the algorithm and get spread out to the classic algorithmic playlists, Release Radar, Discover Weekly, radio, all those things. And then hopefully this will actually help you get additional streams on things like Smart Shuffle and AI DJ and all that kind of stuff too. So I think that's pretty great. So if you found this interesting or useful, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And other than that, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video, my friend. Have a good one.